The following clip is presented to you by The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, available every Friday wherever you get your podcasts and at extremehardy.com. Big news this morning as we tape this on Wednesday. The Young Bucks, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page are sticking around for the long run in AEW. The E in All Elite Wrestling have re-signed on contract extensions. They will remain executive vice presidents, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. What's your reaction to the news?
I'm happy to see it. I mean, I feel like the Elite in so many ways they're the heart and soul of AEW. I mean, obviously the company is named after them, All Elite Wrestling. So yes, they were a big deal to this company. They were one of the most important reasons this company was started in the first place. These guys had a vision along with Cody, and they made it come to reality when they hooked up with Tony Khan and AEW came into existence. And on top of that, like Matt and Nick Jackson, two of my best friends on the planet, as I've said many, many times. And yes, I do go hard for them because I do stand up for my friends whenever my friends are in issues. Kenny Omega is someone I've got to know over the last couple of years. I like him a whole lot. And Hangman Adam Page, obviously, I knew him when he was a young up-and-comer coming up through the Indies in North Carolina, and I'm very proud of all the success he's been able to attain for himself over these last few years at AEW. And I think having the Elite in your promotion is one of the biggest positive things you can possibly have.
Why do you say that?
They're talented. They're creative. They think outside the box. They do things that no one else does. They really are people that have really blazed their own trail. They have done things their own way, and they have made themselves into huge stars. And I think it's very important to have that in a company. People who are willing to just kind of think outside the box, think outside the given parameters of professional wrestling and do things differently.
As I said, they're maintaining their positions as executive vice presidents within AEW. What have they offered to the company from a backstage standpoint that people might not necessarily be aware of?
I think from a backstage standpoint, they have really challenged people to try things differently creatively. I think one of the greatest examples of that is Being the Elite, their YouTube show, which they use to add nuance and they use to add detail into angles that are happening on television. And I think it adds a lot to the programming. I think it adds a lot to the branding. I think it adds a lot to specific characters that come onto that show that do things like that. And I really think the way they tell a story is different than like traditional pro wrestling. And that's something I'm a big fan of. I also think when it comes to them being EVPs, when they speak with talents, it's much more a person talking to you than a boss, it feels like. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing at all because they talk to you from a very real standpoint. And they also talk to you, not talking down, but they talk to you at the same level as people who are just trying to work together to get to a greater good.
Yeah, your old boss seems to be having quite a few weeks, huh?
He always does, man. He's a controversial character.
A little different talking to him versus talking to the Elite.
Yeah, I mean, talking to Vince is like you're talking to some deity, some larger than life, godlike being. Talking to the Elite is like you're talking to two other human beings that are on your same level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just seems a little different. I mean, there's a few other differences thrown in there too, but that's just nuance at this point. That's just conjecture, neither here nor there. I think it's a great thing for AEW. I said that right from the moment I heard the news. I think that they represent a movement in pro wrestling, and I think that's very important. And as AEW has expanded and added a lot of stars, I still think they're an integral part of the programming at the end of the day, even if we pretty much just see them on Dynamite these days and not really on Collision. In the press release, and specifically, I should say, the Sports Illustrated article, the Bucks talked about how when they were thinking over this decision, the biggest thing for them was the schedule, and that they really felt like at this stage in their careers, they wanted to be able to go home when they needed to go to TV and live life as a pro wrestler that way. What kind of interest do you think WWE would have had in them if they had been able to finagle something schedule wise? Because I'm sure that had to have been a holdup.
Massive interest. They would have had massive interest on top of just being huge stars. I mean, especially their equity has only got higher since they've been doing AEW Dynamite and been the EVPs of AEW. Kenny, Matt, Nick, and Hangman. All those guys are extremely valuable commodities. And on top of that, if the WWE would have somehow landed them, I mean, then you kind of take the heart and soul out of All Elite Wrestling. I mean, for goodness sakes, the company, part of the name of the company is Elite. So you would be losing like the heart and soul, part of the true identity of All Elite Wrestling. And that would be a big blow to AEW, I think.
Do you think, from your perspective, that the schedule and dates is a big deterrent for a lot of pro wrestlers out there?
It probably depends on where you're at. I mean, if you're someone who has a family, a wife at home, and kids, and you want to optimize the amount of time you're able to spend with them, yes, schedule is a massive deal. If you're a single guy, if you're a young man, you don't have any responsibilities at home, it's different. Schedule is not as important. But with WWE, they're doing things all over the globe, and they are going to do as many shows as they can possibly do. So obviously, the schedule is going to be much more intense there. So if you're someone who's a dedicated family guy, you have children, young children, on top of that, you definitely want to be home as much as possible. So the schedule is going to weigh heavily in your decisions.